Welcome back to I Am Hope in the Chaos. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, but really important. When we talk about mental health, we often think about diagnoses like anxiety, depression, or even bipolar disorder. But the truth is, mental health is impacted by so much more than that. Sometimes it's life, sometimes it's the moments that change everything. A diagnosis, a loss, a situation that you just never saw coming. Today, we're going to talk about that side of mental health, the side that doesn't always get named, but it's very real. I'm sitting down with someone who's currently walking through a cancer diagnosis, and we're going to have an honest conversation about what that experience can do to a person mentally and emotionally. Not just the physical side of it, but the thoughts, the weight, the unseen parts that people don't always talk about. This conversation is meant to bring understanding, compassion, and awareness to something that so many people experience but don't always have the words for. So, wherever you are listening from, just take a moment, settle in, and let's step into this conversation together. Today, I'm joined by Brian O'Sullivan. Brian is someone who is currently walking through a cancer diagnosis, and I am honored that he is willing to open up about what that experience has been like, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Brian, thank you so much for being here with us. Before we talk about your diagnosis, will you tell me a little bit about you, who you are outside of all of this?
Sure. Jamie, let me start by saying it's certainly a pleasure to be sitting here talking with you. Thank you so much for asking me. And I know I'm your first guest, and that's it's an awesome feeling, So a little bit about myself is I'm 54 years old, and I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I lived in a few other areas, but just keep coming back, just keep showing up, coming back like a bad penny, just keeps coming back, right? um, I'm the youngest of four, and uh, just I like to say I lived a normal life, but it's not really normal. I mean, what
What's
is
normal?
normal? What is normal exactly? But I am glad to be here. I'm glad to share my story, my journey. Like you said, it's an open book. But what do I enjoy? I enjoy being outside. I enjoy like here. I'm in space right now. I'm communicating to you from space.
Love
you know,
space.
it's good to laugh. But yes, I'm a master of time and space, as they say. But no, I do enjoy being outside. It's so much better than being inside for me. So I like to be around the water. I grew up. I live about an hour from the Jersey Shore. I live about 30 minutes from Philadelphia, about 2 hours from New York City. So all different little areas within a couple hours. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm glad to be here. So thank you for asking, and thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to be able to hear from you, and it sounds like you're in a great place out there in New Jersey, a little bit different from Utah, where I'm at. So definitely great.
I've been to Utah. I enjoy, I've been to some of the national parks and all that. I enjoy that, so and I'll
Yeah.
come back out there to Utah sometime. So,
Yeah. Can't wait to have you visit.
it'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Brian, what does your life look like for you right now, where you're at?
Well, I am, it looks, it kind of shifts. Some days is very great. And some days it's just kind of it goes up and down a little bit, It's like, but right now where I'm at is a good day today. It is a good day, It's like it's one of those days where I woke up and it's like the the winter is over here and it's like spring is here, and it's just that always helps too because you know
Mhm.
I have a good outlook today. I do, I definitely
Love
do, and
that.
yeah, no, it's like some days are much better than others. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. You know that.
It's true. Yeah.
But
And it's great that you have that positive outlook as much as you can.
but it does look good on me. I mean, life is looking good today, feeling good. I like to wear some. I don't know if you can see my silver sequins today, but
Always shining.
well, I try, and I'll get into this more. But I lived in a world of darkness for so long. It's like I got to try to keep it lit up now, and So today I am lit up. I am lit, and I'm lit to be here as well. Thank you.
I love that. It's every time I've seen you, you're always shining, and it's a great way to bring that attitude to the world. So that's wonderful.
Oh yeah, I remember the first time we met, but we can get to that, right? There you
That's
go.
right. We'll bring that in later, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Brian, do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about when things first changed for you?
Yes, I definitely do. About like you mean with my cancer journey and
Yeah.
like oh, okay, or when yes, okay, yeah, no, I gladly will. I'll tell you this, Amy. I won't go back to the year I was born because we don't have all week for that. Don't tell that story, but because I'm old, but I'm grateful. No, I would say 2019, right? So 2019, I had worked at the same job for 16 years and the same company, the state of New Jersey. I worked for the state of New Jersey for 16 years and I grew bored of it and I wanted to do things differently. And I was working part time on my own. I was taking people to the airports and such like that, just dropping off. I thought I had a personality where I could speak with people. I think I could, I could pull it off at least, but I do love people. That's the truth. But so I would do that part time. I would drop off the airports and such like that. And then I I said to myself, I said, I can do this. And I'd build up a clientele. I'd build up, repeat customers. And, you know, so I was like, I can do this full time. And I said, let me just, I got tired of getting a steady paycheck every 2 weeks. I got tired
Mm,
of those health benefits I had. And so, no, anyway, but that's just a little humor. And I went out and I just did it for myself. And I was taking people. Actually, what I did first was I went to Ireland and I went to discover my roots in 2019. And
amazing.
I spent 33 days in Ireland there. I spent
Wow.
23 by myself, backpacking. Like if I was not backpack, I didn't drive or anything like that. The public, the transportation bus is great, but
Yeah,
it was kind of like something I could have done. I should have been doing maybe when I was 19 or 20, but I shouldn't. No, I did it at 47, and
that's still
it's
great.
like, but it's like I realize it is what it is, and I wanted to discover my roots, and I did. I did, and my mother and my sisters had come for the last 10 days of the trip, so that made it even nice too. And I spent that time with them. But when I got back from Ireland, I'd love to tell you about Ireland because I'm going again in May. But but when I got back from Ireland, I went back to work. I said, actually, and I was down in Florida. My mother lives in Florida, and I went down to see her for my birthday in February of 20. And I said, Mom took me to the airport, and I was like, I love you, Mom. I'll see you soon. And that was the end of February 2020. Now, a couple of weeks later, the pandemic hit, the earth shut down, the world shut down, and different things. And I thought I was depressed then. I really did. I was, yeah, I was sitting around. I was staying safe, but I wasn't working. I wasn't going out. I was just collecting unemployment. And yeah, I thought I'm staying healthy. Actually, I thought I was staying healthy, because I didn't. And then in 2021, I don't have to tell you what 2020 was like because we all lived it.
It was a rough time for everybody. Yeah.
It definitely was. It definitely was. And I was excited. January of 2021, I was like, I got through. I didn't get sick. And you know what else? For me, at least, it was like I could talk. It was, imagine if that was 30 years before, like how we're having this video conversation with you
Hmm.
in Utah and me in New Jersey. Like I can do this with my family. I can do this with my sisters, my brother, my mother in Florida with the video chat during the pandemic, which is a beautiful thing. Because if this had happened in the 90s and the 80s, I never really been able to do it like that. But
Yeah.
we got through. And so January 2021, I had a little voice say to me, said, Brian, the pandemic's over. Go back to work. You didn't get sick. You're doing great. But go see a doctor. Get yourself checked out. Be an adult. There I was
Yeah.
to be an adult I was 48 at that point. I was, 48. So I said, okay, I went to the doctor and I got a physical. I wanted to see what my A1C is because I've had a history of diabetes in my family, type 2 diabetes. But all of a sudden, it's like my A1C was fine. But I got my results on a Saturday, and I was following up with the doctor on a Monday. So I got my blood work, but my white blood cell count was elevated, and never didn't know anything about what this would be. I felt
Mhm.
great. Trust me, I really felt great, and I felt I was pretty somewhat healthy, you know. I thought, and all of a sudden it's like my cousin, she's my cousin slash godmother slash cancer survivor and medical doctor, and I'm grateful for her because I texted her. I was out doing DoorDash on a Saturday when I got these results, and
Yeah.
I was delivered DoorDash, and I got these results, and I'm looking at this white blood cell count abnormal. What is going on with this? I don't even know what it's for. So I texted her, and I said, "You got time to talk?" She said, "I'll call you in 10 minutes." Well, that 10 minutes was pretty long because, of course, I started looking up what what could this lead to, white blood, and I started reading about all kinds of scary things, and I was just like you know, and she called me up and we talked about it. She said, "Brian, you probably just have a cold and your body is building this up to fight off the infection." And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great." She said, "You're talking to your doctor on Monday and hopefully you'll just be able to retest in a month." So I said, "Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Barb. I'll let you know. Love you. And I'll let you get on with your weekend." And it wasn't, and it sounded great, but I wasn't I wasn't there at that point. I wasn't super paranoid because I thought, okay, this is here's my doctor and cousin telling me this, so it's good, we're good. And I went to the doctor's appointment. I talked to her and I told her what my cousin had said, and she said, "Well, yeah, it sounds good. We'll elevate it in a month. We'll no." She said, "We'll reschedule a month." So a month later, and I told my mother and my siblings about it, but there was nothing really to tell. It's just okay. This is exactly what happened. So, and then a month later, I turned 49, and I went got it done, and I was expecting these my white blood cell count to get lower, but it was higher, and at this point, I knew something was going on here. It shouldn't be going higher.
Right.
And you know what, Jamie? My doctor said to me, "I want you to see a hematologist." And I said,
Hmm.
"Okay, sounds great." You know, here I was at 49, no idea what a hematologist even meant. You know, I, I,
Right.
I had no idea. But I wanted to get better, so I looked up this doctor. And when I went again, Google told me he's a hematologist slash oncologist, and I was like, "Oncologist? I know what that means. Cancer. I
Right.
feel great." This is where it started, right there. That is where it started. And it was the end of February of 2021. So here I am walking out of our office on Google, seeing hematologist slash oncologist and thinking, what is this? You know?
Yeah. It really clicked then.
Oh God, yeah. That's where it
Yeah.
started.
Mm.
But you want me to
It's a
keep
powerful
going?
moment for sure, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It was just that moment, like, what's going on here? I feel fine, you know? I
Yeah.
went from feeling fine to like the possibilities are like, no, not this guy, you know?
Yeah.
So you want to know what I did next? I called him up. I called that doctor up and I made an appointment. So we got an appointment in the next month in March, because this was the end of February. So and went there by myself. You know, my brother offered to go with me, and I'm like, I'm all right. I'm good. You know, I'm a man. You know, I
Gotta
don't
be
need
tough. Yeah.
that. But so Jamie, I pulled up to this where this place was, and I've been in this complex many times because there's like a supermarket there. It's a little strip mall. But when I got out of the car, all I saw was Cancer Center on the side of the building, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is reality." And it's like this is where it all goes to die right there. This is where it all ends. And I just was like, I walked inside, and I just was so doomed. And this doctor, he said to me, he says, well, he laid me down on the table, did a little examination, felt things. He said, I don't feel any abnormal growth in your lymph nodes. He felt under my armpits, felt down by my groin. He said, I'm thinking, like, sounds great. This is all just, he said, but we need to do more blood work, you know? I said,
Hmm.
okay. We did more blood work. I let my mother and her siblings and my siblings know this is what's going on. And my cousin, of course, you know. But I said, here's the next step. Got to do more blood work. So now it called back in April of 21. And he says to me, I go in for next month. My brother came with me this time because I needed him. I couldn't do this myself. I know that, you know?
Need some
And
support. Yeah.
we went in there, and it turned out actually my brother and the doctor's sons were friends. They played sports together, stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting, you know. But anyway, I sat there, and this doctor said, and I'm like, oh, okay. So he says, he didn't feel any more growth, and then my white blood cell kind of gone up a little more. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you think I'm clear, right? And he's like, no. He says, you definitely have a type of blood cancer at this point. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I'm feeling good. He says it's either chronic lymphocytic leukemia or mantle cell lymphoma. And he said it's probably CLL because that's more um, not as rare, you know. And it's all, but either way, you don't need to be treated for this right now. Both of these conditions, you could be on what they call watch and wait for quite a while before you have to get treated. And I was like, okay, well, I got to do what I got to do. You know what I mean? I have to take care of this. He said, I want you to do one more test. It's called a fish test, and that'll determine the actual diagnosis between the two. And I said, okay. I said, all right, doctor, we went on with the, I left and I said, I'll go and get the. So the next morning, I went and got this test done because I was getting proactive. I wanted to find out what was going on. And
Yeah.
I got this test done, and the people at LabCorp, they knew me. It's like I've been going there every month at that point, you know, just to,
Yeah.
and got my test done, and I went home, and I reported back to them. The people, the core that I was reporting back to the same people, just
Hmm.
let them know what's going on. Thanks, you know, family. I wasn't putting it on social media. I wasn't doing that because, for one thing, is I didn't know what to say. You know,
It's hard. Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't have much to say. So, but I did think that this chronic lymphocytic leukemia and what he said it was going to be easier to manage, and this is probably what my diagnosis is. So I said, okay. So here it was. It was a Friday night. It was 8:30. I was home alone, and my phone dinged from LabCorp with the results. So here I am on a Friday night at home, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to get my CLL diagnosis, and I'm going to move on with life, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I clicked on it, and it said, I used my best game show announcer voice. Congratulations, you've won mantle cell lymphoma, you know, right? And it's
Oh,
like, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, no, no, he said it's CLL. And now they're saying mantle cell lymphoma, the one that's not as common, not as it's. And then I went for my second diagnosis.
right.
I went for a second opinion right then and there with Dr. Google. And I looked that up and I said, and Dr. Google said, men in their 60s get diagnosed with this and live 5 to 7 years. And 4 to 5,000 people a year in the United States get diagnosed with this. And I'm just like, it's my blankety blank moment because I'm going to keep this. I know you got a lot of kids that watch your show, and I want to make sure that they, you know, so I'm going to
Yeah.
keep it G-rated so you don't get
Thank you. Appreciate that.
bounced off the air. You know what I mean? So, but this was my moment. This was like the F double double hockey stick whatever moment. You know, it's like
Yeah.
yeah, and
Can imagine.
and it was the worst night of my life right then and there. That the phone told me, the app told me what my disease was, and I
Mm.
instantly fell into a real depression, worse than before. You know, and I know you know
Yeah.
about depression, and I know I feel comfortable talking about it with you, telling you about this, and
Yeah.
I
I appreciate that you're going to open up and tell us all that. So at that moment, now you knew your diagnosis. How, I mean, you mentioned depression. How all did that impact you mentally and emotionally?
Well, especially when I looked that up and I saw what I saw, I had texted my mother and my cousin and I let them know this is the diagnosis, and they're like, okay, can work with this. And I um I went on Facebook because I wasn't really I had an Instagram account and a Facebook account. I wasn't really on YouTube, TikTok, any of that stuff
Yeah.
at that point, I'm way too old for that. But I just know that I looked on and I was like, well, maybe there's a group on Facebook. There's groups about everything on there. I know there's no groups like on Instagram, whatever, but so I punched in mantle cell lymphoma, and up came these support groups. And I joined them that night. And I met people that night who were living with this in different stages because it was a non-curable illness, and I saw it non-curable. And people were living with this, and some were in remission, some were in watch and wait, some were under active treatment, and
Yeah.
people were all over the world. And I realized that, like, it's like I'm not alone. It's like most people I say that to, mantle cell lymphoma, they look at me like, "The hell's that? I never heard of that." I'm like, well, I wish I never did either. But it's like, but anyway, there's people all over the world that are having, with the same condition, and I'm like, okay, so I can connect. And the first thing they said is stay off of Google. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little too
Yes.
late for that. It's a little bit too late
Yeah.
for that
It,
one.
it's hard not to, but you have to try.
Outdated. And, you have to consider the sources, so I found some solace that night. I found some hope that night because I met up with people. I connected with people all over the world, different conditions, different stages of this disease, not like stage one, two, three, or four, but you know what I'm saying, different parts of their life.
Yeah.
So I found a little bit of solace, but it still was, and that was great. And so I would, like, I, I started, what really screwed me up at that point was, like, yeah, there was people I could chat with, but really when it comes down to it, it's still me. And I'm just like, and I'd be like, I'm trying to lie down and fall asleep, and I'd be like thinking it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be curled up in a fetal position, and I'd be thinking that my mother is going to bury me. That's what I thought. And that's what
Mm.
messed me up, keeping it
That's hard.
G rated, PG rated, at least, for you,
Yeah.
that's what messed me up is, and it's tough to, I couldn't, and I think, and if she sees us, she's still gonna, anyway, that's where I was. I have to not, I learned a long time ago, our secrets keep us sick.
Yeah.
Did you know that? I'm sure you know that.
Oh yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
need to share about how I feel. And I'm glad to have that opportunity to share here with you right now. So that was the real depression. I thought 2020 was bad. 2021 got even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that immediately you were able to find a group of people going through the same thing and we're able to see that little glimpse of hope. I think anybody going through mental health challenges, whether they have a true mental health diagnosis or they have an issue going on in life that brings about mental health challenges, if they're able to find just a glimpse of hope, it can bring a whole new light to their life of, with what they're going through. And so you being able to find that so quickly probably brought so much to your life and was able to keep you going just a little bit longer, every step of the way. And so I'm so glad you were able to find that so quickly.
Like, people actually cared, and they're like, and yeah, that I think, like, oh, they're on Facebook, it might be fraud, but no, we're trying to make up this illness. It's like I went from having getting diagnosed from an illness that I never heard of, and now I have all these people in my life that are just like, oh, message me here anytime like this. I found some hope in the chaos,
Yeah,
because it was chaos, and
for
that's
sure.
what I need. I love that expression. I don't know if you ever heard that one.
Yeah, we tend to say that a lot on here. And so, a lot of things in life become chaos. And so you
Yeah,
got to find hope through it all, and that's how you keep going. And
your hope.
it's amazing. I'm sure these people became like best friends and family to you too, right?
Yeah, I still talk with quite a few of them. I still, sometimes we drift apart, and I've
Yeah.
also, but you know what? I'll fast forward a little bit. I'm here now, and I've had people message me about they found me on Instagram, they found me on TikTok,
Now you're
and
that one they need.
I've had someone who said to me, I had this young lady, she wrote to me, and she said, my father got diagnosed with mantle cell lymphoma, and I Googled it and I saw devastation, but I did hashtag mantle cell lymphoma and I found you. And I was like, wow, it was just like, so it's paying it forward, it's like, I'm
Yeah,
here sharing my journey, and it, yeah, it makes it all worth it. It does,
it
because
does.
I know I just skipped a few years there, but if you want to hear you know,
Yeah, I think that's great. And Brian, you're an advocate for just like I advocate for mental health, you advocate for that. And I
yeah.
think sharing our journeys, if we're not out to share our journeys, we can't help others who are going through the same problems. And Brian, do you mind sharing where people can find you to hear about your story more?
Oh, sure, sure. If you just type in Brian O'Sullivan or mantle cell lymphoma, actually, I could put I could put a little website in the chat there. I have a link tree account. It's going to take me a few minutes to find it, but yeah, just give me 1 second here. I'm going to do this. So that's where they can find me. Sorry, you know what? I don't want the dead air, but I will tell you the journey has been interesting. It's been different. I dealt with a lot of things. I battled the insurance company almost as much as the lymphoma itself. But
Yeah,
you talk about advocacy. I've had so many people advocate for me. Can you see me right now?
I can, yes.
Okay, good, good. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure. Um, Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, that's fine.
I've had so many people advocate for me that it's my duty, it's my job to pay it forward. The insurance, I went for a true second opinion, and this doctor had set me up with a treatment plan, and I had hope. I had more hope at that point. And then the insurance, I actually drove across the country because I wanted to see the country before I died, but the insurance company had denied this treatment, and that just really, I'm going to put this in the chat. I guess, or I don't know how this works. So I don't know if people can see it, but this is
Well,
heavy.
you put it in the chat and I'll read it off, but
Okay, all right, there you
or
go.
you know what? I will add that to the podcast so that people can see that and then
But
they can find that link
if
to
anyone
get all
wants
the
to find me, all you got to do is type in Brian Brian O'Sullivan, and then type Mantle MantleLympHOMA. And yeah, there's not. It's a rare illness as it is. Especially, you're not gonna have too many Brian O'Sullivans with that. I don't believe. I know I'm
Yeah,
not
they'll
unique.
find
I'm
you.
sure I'm not the only one, but you'll see me in the sparkles. So, but
That's
thank
right.
you.
And we'll put that link on the podcast so that they can get that directly to you as well.
Yeah,
But it's a great
and
journey to follow and they'll see a lot of hope through that.
I've met some of most. I always say this. I was very cancer naive until I heard those three words. You've got cancer, and I dedicated my life to working with others whose lives have been affected by one form of cancer or another. But now
Yeah.
it's branched out. It's to all diseases, all illnesses. Because I started going to an organization sponsored by Johnson and Johnson called Healthy Voices.
Hmm.
I went there 2 years ago, and I met some amazing folks. And then they invited me back last year, and I met some other amazing folks, including yourself.
Yeah.
And
It was a great place to meet.
it is family. I remember that first night I met you, you were just kind of looking at me like I was wearing this gold or green sequin jacket, and you're just like, who's this geezer
You
over there?
stood out in the crowd.
And it's about light in the night, but I remember this other lady, she came up, she's like, I gotta take a picture with you. And I'm like, okay, right, that was great. And you were and we hit it off. and I consider you to be my best friend, to be my sister, and I'm
Yes,
grateful for you. And here I am with you, and we're stepping out of our comfort zone. I know you're stepping out of your comfort zone right now, right?
that's
Because you
right.
said you never did this, and I'm thankful that we're just having a conversation. I'm hoping it's getting easier for you.
It is for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I
great.
appreciate you doing this, and I love that as we become, such good friends that we've been able to help each other through our journeys, and that's what I love about, what we do. And so thank you for being here to help other people, and I have some more questions for you if that's all right.
Of course, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's that connection, though. It's that human connect. I mean, we didn't meet online. We didn't connect online. A lot of advocates I connected online, and then when you meet them in person, it's like, wow. But here it was different. We met in person, but now we
Yeah.
really brought that connection there. Some other advocates that I met at Healthy Voices was like that, where I knew them online and then I met in person. But I'm just glad we did. Sure, anything you want in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, is there anything about your experience that you've gone through that people just don't really see or like they wouldn't understand, especially when it relates to, you know, oh, you just have cancer. Maybe you're just dealing with cancer. They don't see that there would be any mental health issues along with that. I feel a lot of people see mental health and cancer or other issues. They don't see that there is, that we all have. There, everything comes with mental health, and I don't think people really see that. And so, is there anything that you see that people don't really wouldn't see and understand with that?
well, let me relate with this, and let me tell you how I I always say I was cancer naive until I heard those three words, you have cancer. And to me, I would see somebody put on Facebook, they're like, oh, I have cancer, or it's like,
Yeah.
and I would feel bad, and I would pray for them. I'm saying, I'm praying for you, and that's where I would pray for them, but that's where it ended. That's where it stopped. I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about the mental and emotional aspects of this illness. I thought it was either you got better or you didn't, and that's what I would think. And till I heard those words, it's just like, wow, it's like people would tell me, what people would say, like, oh, you don't look sick at all. And I'm like,
Mm.
what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? I,
Yeah.
I used to like look at myself in the mirror or God forbid in the mirror and think that somebody else was looking at me. And I would think like all I saw was the face of cancer at that point.
Yeah.
I really did. Now I just see the face of me, just a goofy middle-aged guy who's just turned 54 recently and happy for another day. I'm coming up on 5 years since my diagnosis in May. It'll be 5 years.
Amazing.
That also triggers, because it's that 5 to 7 years the plan that I saw. You know what I mean? It does,
Right.
but I'm here, and that's like I've truly learned the value of another day and how much important it is to me. And I'll talk a little bit more about my mental health because I think I mentioned to you that I drove across the country, and I did.
Yeah.
I drove across the country. I wanted to see the U.S. before I died, and I wanted to see Utah. That was my main goal, And
It's a great
I did
place here.
I did get to Utah. Unfortunately, I didn't get to Salt Lake or a place, but I will. I did see, but I wanted to. Speaking of Utah, I will tell you this though: Utah is like a part of my mental health journey because I know I've shared this before. I remember as I was driving through Colorado and Utah, and I really wasn't feeling actually because I wasn't feeling physically sick. I hadn't felt physically sick from this disease at all. It was up here. It was definitely up here. The we call it like the symptoms were all I think in my mind. I remember I was telling my
Yeah.
cousin we were at dinner before I drove across the country. I was telling her, oh, and I feel my spleen getting bigger at night. She's like, she reached out, she's like, your spleen's not here, your spleen's up here. And I'm like, oh,
You were
so it
creating a
was
lot. Mhm.
yeah, because I read that was a symptom, and my
Yeah.
spleen was being measured in these scans. But anyway, I digress like I always do, but I'm going to. So as I'm driving and I'm driving through Utah and Colorado, I said to myself, I said, wow, this looks so beautiful, the scenery. the mountains, the valleys.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, you know what I said to myself? I said, as I'm driving, 5 minutes later, I said, oh, if I ever get really, really sick, I can just come out here and cure my cancer. I can just drive right off, you know? And I said that to myself, and I was like thinking, where did that come from? I just was talking about how much beautiful beauty there is to
Right.
wanting to end the pain, you know?
Yeah.
And that is definitely there. We do. I can't speak for everyone, but I know for myself that there's definitely mental illness there. There is a history of mental illness in my family. There is. I guess everyone has different things like that, but not as not as much history of cancer. But I can't really speak for others in my family that have passed or than before. But I know for myself that, um, yeah, there was a lot of like, what's going to happen? Who's
Hmm.
going? And it's like all these things that I can't control. Um, what's going to happen? Like, I remember like I was like throwing out and giving away a lot of my stuff at home because I was just like, well, I don't want somebody else to have to clean it all out when I die, you know? That
Yeah.
was that shit is real. That's excuse me. That stuff is
It
real. You know?
happens. Yeah. I think that's very common for people going through what you've been through.
Yeah. And I'm all over the place. And I'm thinking at this point I should be a little bit more, but I do get choked up at this, you know? I do. I get choked up at this every time because I don't want to live that way anymore. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that spot, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I don't want to be that curled up, you know, thinking like I'm gonna die, thinking my mom is gonna have to bury me, you know?
Yeah. I can't imagine those feelings, you know? It's gotta be painful for everybody going through that.
And and when she hears you talk about it too, it's gonna be painful
Yeah.
for her. So
Yeah.
I try not to talk too publicly about them, but I do talk about it. I do have a psychologist I see.
It's
I do have
wonderful.
professionals, and I also have other support groups that I go on, and I am a huge advocate of support groups. You know,
Yes. Yeah,
giving,
and that's the most important thing is you have to talk about it. If we bottle up those emotions, we have a higher risk of doing something we shouldn't do. You know, we have to release it. We have to have somebody to talk to. We need to get the help. And there are so many options and different ways to get help when we have mental illness or, just struggles in life. And
yeah.
we got to do it. We have to accept that there's help out there.
I also attend 12-step programs, which is good because when I got my diagnosis, I said to myself, I'm going to stop drinking, and it's going to
Mhm.
help me, and it's going to help me heal. And then I realized, when I get better, I'll go back. I can have a few cocktails. Well, for one, it's not really about that. But for one thing, is like there isn't a few with me. There isn't one or two. It's just I'm an all or nothing kind of person,
Yeah.
and it's almost 5 years since I had a drink, and I don't want to start again. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I go to events
Yeah.
sometimes. Like, oh, you want to drink? I'm like, it's been almost 5 years since I had a drink. I'm not starting today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow. You know, right? No, it's just keep it like that. But yeah, it's that, and that helps me too with a clearer head. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
but and also I attend meetings where I'm able to talk about that. You know, not everybody wants to hear about it, but you know what? I hear about it anyway. You know,
Yeah.
because I need to share about what's going on. If we don't share about what's going on inside of us, nobody's really going to know, you know?
Exactly. It's good for you to get it out, but it's also good for other people to hear that. It helps remind people, just like I said earlier, a lot of people don't realize that these mental health struggles don't always come from the mental illness diagnosis. They come from life changing in ways that we just never expected.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like I'm monopolizing this whole conversation, but I hope it's all
No,
right. You know?
no, you've been doing wonderful, and I
Oh,
appreciate all the things you've been saying. Uh, I really appreciate it. Um, Based on like your life, your identity, everything that's happened, did this change how you see yourself now?
Yes, it did. I see myself not that I didn't want to help people before, because I did. I did. I think this was Special Olympics New Jersey. That was one of my charities that I raised money for every year.
Amazing.
I did like the polar bear plunge, but that involved drinking and stuff too. And it was like, but anyway, I I generally I care about people. I love people. I don't love everyone I meet, but I love people as a whole. I
Yeah.
just and if I can help somebody with my experience, and if I can share and I can help someone, it helps me as well. So that's why I'm glad to be here. That's why I'm glad to talk. I mean, if you see people see I post like every day. This has been a new year. I've been posting well, about a 2 minute video. I figure maybe someone could take 2 minutes of my of my mind each day. That's okay. And
They're
just
great videos you've been posting.
oh, thank you. I get inspired by you know,
Oh, thanks.
by all your shares because you post wonderful things as well,
Thank
and
you.
I'm very grateful for the journey. So, do I have I learned? I've learned compassion. I've really learned more compassion for others because I don't like to put myself up on some pedestal because I like people say I'm not an influencer. I don't know that. I'm just a guy who's here for others, and I mean it. I'm here for others. It's like I I I worked with the public in in New Jersey. When I worked in the state of New Jersey, I worked for the Motor Vehicle Commission, and I actually at one point I was doing people's licenses, and I always said I want to treat people the way I'd like my mother to be treated if she came in there. So that's
Yeah.
just me. I'm
Yeah.
no saint though. but
Yeah.
uh, but now it's like now I just want to treat people with everyone. We all deserve respect and dignity.
It's
I
true.
really feel that way. So
Every
I want
human
to treat
does.
people with that I wish I could get treated with as well. Because
Yeah.
I'm not a number. You know, I'm not a number. Even though some of the insurance company thinks I'm just a number or a liability, probably, but no.
Right.
But because I told you about the insurance company denying my treatment. So
I know.
at one point, that third oncologist said to me, "Okay, let me just tell you. Let me go back a little bit." So the third oncologist I saw said to me, "Brian, the insurance company wants to pay for basic chemotherapy, but when it fails, then they'll pay for the targeted treatment." And I was just like, "When it fails, it's like," and it was
Why did they
just
have to
like
wait for that? You know?
to save some money. And he said to me, "It's called step therapy." And he said to me, the he said the insurance company also knows not everybody makes it past the first round, you know? And it's like, oh my God. But he told me, they said, I can match you. There's a oncologist, Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York and New Jersey, that is running a clinical trial using the same types of treatments. And I was like, he said, are you interested in this? And I'm like, yeah, I definitely am. It's the same types of targeted treatments. And it's oncologist number three. I called him oncologist number three because that's what they were to me at that point. It wasn't,
Right.
but that was the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And he said to me, he says, I'm going to he got up and he emailed this doctor, oncologist number four, right there while I was in the middle of the appointment with him, because he cared. He wanted me to get better. He's an
Yeah.
advocate. Not just a doctor. He advocated for me at that moment to get
It's
me the
wonderful.
best treatment that I could get. And I was like, wow, I'm really learning the power of it because he's like, I could do it afterwards, but no, he wanted to do it right then and there.
That's
So
wonderful.
they contacted me from oncologist number four's office about a week later. And, I remember getting talking about this clinical trial, and I went to the first time of the appointment, and I'll tell you what, doctor was telling me about the trial and different things, and we went through. I don't have to tell you, like I went through the bone marrow biopsy again. I've had three of them at this point. So everybody has a lot of you know tests and pains and things like that, but we got to go through these things to get better. And
Yeah.
I know that the day before I was supposed to possibly get accepted on the trial, I wasn't going to find out till that morning. And that was a tough one because I've been dealing with so much rejection. And February 3rd, 2022, I sat in Dr. Nita Kumar's office at Memorial Sloan Kettering in Basking Ridge, New Jersey, and my brother was there, and the nurse practitioner was there, and Dr. Kumar, and my cousin was on the phone, and she said to me, I never forget, she said to me, Brian, I still thought I was going to get rejected for this trial. I didn't think I was going to get accepted on it because my head was telling me this, you know? And she said, Brian, you're accepted on this trial and you can start healing today if you choose to accept this. And you know what I did, Jamie? I put my head down and I just started crying right then and there. And it wasn't like, I didn't even know if this was going to work, but I knew I had a chance. I had the chance
Yeah.
to get better the way the doctor the year before had told me he knew it was going to get better for me, you know?
Yeah.
And I always say like 80% of depression left my body that day.
Wow.
Did it really? The 80%? No, but it seemed like it. It was cleansing. It was cleansing, and nobody's trying to stop
Just a
me.
relief. Yeah.
Nobody tried to stop me. They're just like they just let me cry. It's like that's you ever. It's like let her cry. You familiar with that song?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just like that. It was like and and it did start working because I went on treatment that day. So I don't have to get into all that about the treatment, but I still have no evidence of disease. I just had my scans every 6 months, my follow ups. I'm still on this trial, and I'm still showing no evidence of disease. So that's a beautiful thing.
So happy for you. That's
Thank you.
just incredible.
I won't lie though. When it comes close to the scans, like my next scans will be in August, September. I think September. It's not really set, but I will develop the anxiety at that point, and
Yeah.
I will be crazy. But I hope to not crazy, but anxiety, and I'll be on. And I hope to deal with that for a long time to come. Really, I hope to start dealing with it in better ways. But I also hope when I say to deal with that for a long time to come, meaning that I'm not planning on leaving this earth for a long time. You know.
Yeah. We sure hope you stay around with us. And, as I've been through those anxieties with you, it's, it's sad to watch you go through it, but it's also great that I've been able to help you go through some of those times. And, I'm happy that you're still here with us. So we hope that that
Thank you.
lasts a long time.
Goes the landlord because I'm paying my rent. I wouldn't be otherwise.
That's right. So I know that you brought up a lot about connections and everything. So with mental health support, connection, it can change everything and make the biggest impact on our lives. Um, what support systems have made the biggest impact for you? Like which ones have helped the most? Which ones haven't helped?
Like the connections, you mean, and the support systems.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking about earlier. It's like a lot of people when I meet, I love this. I do love Zoom, and I've had a love hate relationship with technology since my own diagnosis, of course.
Yeah.
Um, I can't give a hug through Zoom, for example. I love
Hard.
the personal touch. I do love the personal connection,
Yeah.
but that definitely helps me. It's like yes, I do. I'm not a huge Zoom fan anymore of different things. For work, I am, But so the support systems have really helped. Is patients helping patients, advocates helping patients. This is why we advocate for others because we care. We've been there, and
Yeah.
I can relate to others. I might not be able to relate exactly to somebody with lung cancer, for example, but I can share my experience, my strength, my hope, and what I've been through, not give someone medical advice, but you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So that those are what help. It's like with other patients, definitely, and professional assistants. I am a fan of professional assistants as well, as we talked about. So what doesn't help, there's certain things that people say it does, and trust me, I was guilty too. It's like when people say you don't look sick,
Yeah.
there's like things you don't say to other patients, but if we're not a patient, we might not know these things.
It's true. You don't always know what to say and not to say until you learn the hard way or have been there. It's the
Right.
same way with mental illness, with my bipolar and my different mental illnesses, it's hard when people say things wrong and or don't believe you for things, and I hate on them for it, and then it's like, well, they didn't know that until I've told them, or I didn't say anything, and so they still don't know that. And so it's hard,
And it
that they
bottles up
don't.
inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah, for
It does.
sure.
It bottles
And
up. I know we've talked about me not knowing what to say to people, and it's like, and sometimes I think it's better not to say anything, but that's not good either, you
that's not
know?
good. Yeah, it's nice to know people care, and sometimes that is them caring is by saying things and it sounds horribly wrong, and that it's them showing they're caring sometimes. And
Yeah.
so we just have to kind of accept it and have tough skin sometimes, and sometimes only patient advocates can be that way because we understand. But, that also is what we're out there to do, is to help teach and let people know, hey, don't say these things, because it doesn't help, which is helpful for us to be doing. So I appreciate
Can
you
I
saying
share?
that.
I'll share one experience with you when it comes to this, right? I was at CVS. I was getting a prescription, and I was wearing a shirt that says Brian's Journey, similar to this, Brian's Journey, right? I was wearing
Yeah.
it like this. And the person behind the counter, I remember saying to me, the pharmacist counter, it wasn't a pharmacist, but anyway, it was somebody there. He said, "What's Brian's Journey about?" And I said, well, this was about probably like 3 years ago. So I was like, well, I'm a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor slash thriver. And she says, "Oh, yeah, my one of my best friends, her husband had died of that, and he was only 51." And I'm like, "Whoa," And I'm thinking like, I'm 51, and this is not the thing I want to hear, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
I can't blame her. I can't really judge her because she did. She was uncomfortable, probably didn't know what to
And they're
say.
sharing their experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But inside, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the last thing I want. But I literally, there's like a gentleman I work with, and I work in, I do work. I'm able to work full time as an advocate, and my advocacy journey has brought me to working in medical market research, and I'm able to help patients share their experiences while receiving compensation as well for the time
Love that.
and it's like and that the research generated helps future patients as well. So I'm not doing a big plug for them, but yes, you can reach out to me about that as well. But what I want
It's a
to
great
share is,
thing.
and someone was talking to me, and you could, even if, anyway, I'll mention to you, maybe you could put my email address on there, my work email address as well.
Yeah, we
So
can
in
do
your
that.
write up. But well, the reason I brought that up is because one of my coworkers was telling me about a mantle cell lymphoma project, and he was saying how these companies, he said, and when you read these stats, he said that the average age is 5 to 7 years and this and that. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Brian." I'm like, "Trust me, I already read these stats over and over again. You're not gonna, I know it, that
Yeah.
I know." But he felt bad that he was saying that, and for that, I'm forever grateful because I said, "Thanks for, Karen. Thanks for, at least
Right.
bringing that up."
Yeah,
That's
for
why I was
sure.
there talking about that.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah. So Brian, only if you feel safe to answer this. I know it can be deep as we talk about our mental health, but were there and are there still moments where things just feel so heavy mentally? And do you mind sharing those moments with us? Anything specific?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I like to think, and I like to put on this facade that, yeah, no, things are great, things are wonderful, but I know, I know this disease is going to come back. I know it. It's. I always say I'm not the first mantle cell lymphoma patient in the course of history for it not to come back. And
Yeah.
there's got to be one that maybe did one day. I don't know, but I just know that I and I guess when it gets closer to the scan times, the scanxiety, it feels even more and more real. But I was just having this conversation with my doctor, and I've had this conversation with my cousin, the doctor, and others, that this clinical trial I've been on has been very helpful. We're past 4 years now that I started it. So
Hmm.
it was February of 2022, and who knows? I'm still showing no evidence of disease, But if 10 years from now it comes back, my what keeps me the courage, it keeps me the strength is that there's going to be a lot new advancements made at that point.
Yeah.
I hear so many things about the advancements that are being made already. They're in developments, I should say.
Yeah.
So that's my hope in that chaos right there. You're there too, but it's like that definitely is that brings me out of that, like just on most days, you know. Some days it's still there and I still think like that. And I some days I just want to be, I want to be like that person that's just curling up in that ball again. I want to be there like that.
Yeah.
I really like sometimes I just don't want to and I do work remotely about 80% of the time. And that's not always a good place for me to be. But as long as I get up, show up, I get out of bed. I got to get out of bed in the morning. That's the big thing is I got to get up. I used to think, oh, people would post, I got up today. And it would be funny to be like, oh, yeah, that's your accomplishment. But really, it is accomplishment. I
It's a
can't
big
tell you
deal.
because I know what it's like and I've been there and I've been there and stayed there and been like, but I'm not there today. It's like especially having a job where I can get up and I can come to work. So it's like, I think I was answering your question there. I hope I was.
Yeah. No, you did great. You did
Yeah.
great.
I
Like
mean,
you said, science advancing all the time it's a big deal for anybody who needs future treatment and being able to have the headspace to know you have to get up and you have to keep going because there is going to be continued depression, continued hardship. And you know that you have friends, you have people to support you all the way. And people need to make sure to find those friends, to find that support to help them keep going too. So,
I know you and I talked the other night about, I was saying how 1:30 in the morning I got some test results and you said,
yeah,
no, you should have called me. And I'm like,
yeah,
but now I will. And I promise you I will when that stuff comes in. And it's like, I thank you. I know it wouldn't have been 1:30 in the morning for you either anyway, because you're on the
but
mountain
if it
standard
is, it's
time.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
people need to find those friends, find that support
in
because
all
there's
time
people out
zones,
there for everybody.
in all time zones,
Yeah,
right? I
that's right.
do know people in the UK where it's 5 hours later. That's a good thing too. So,
That's
but
right.
yeah, no, definitely we have to find that support. We have to find our team. We have to find our tribe.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, in closing, Brian, what do you want people to understand about connection between physical health and mental health?
What do I want to find between the connection that it's there? Well, I'm not saying we have to do anything. I'm just, for me, it's about acceptance. I have to accept that, yes, there's definitely a tie in there. It just definitely ties in between physical and mental and emotional.
Yeah.
I've been doing this 2026, trying to take my life back from cancer, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And yesterday I was in a beautiful spot. It's
It
out by
was
this
beautiful.
river that I never even knew existed. The lake. I'm sorry, this lake. I just put in a lake at the Jeep on my GPS. I was at the office that day, one day a week, and I was like, wow, this place is amazing. And I remember I was talking to a woman there, and she was like, I said, I've never been here before. She's, look, if you see over here, there's two bald eagles on that tree there. I'm like, wow. So she lent me her big scope.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a binoculars. It was this big. I was like, wow, that's amazing. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
There's
I
something
found
beautiful everywhere.
a new spot to hang out there on one on the work days after work. Take a little reset from work. But yes, have to acknowledgement and acceptance is that there is a connection because if we deny it and we don't talk about it, we're not going to get better.
Yeah. Thanks. I think that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. And
It's one thing I learned in my 12-step meetings is they say
yeah,
our secrets keep us sick.
exactly. Yep. We'll never improve if we don't talk about things and come to that acceptance because it is there. That connection is there and will always be there. and everybody needs to come to recognize that and accept it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
We need to find our hope in the chaos. And I'm looking at my hope in the chaos right here. So thank you for everything you do
of course.
for me and others. I'm just grateful to be on the journey. We don't know we connect under different reasons, but there's reasons, there's
Yeah,
reasons for everything. Sometimes we might never find out that reason in life, but it's like,
exactly. Yeah, but the reasons are there, and so we don't always have to know them.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. One final thing to ask you, if someone
Sure.
listening feels alone in their journey, what do you want them to hear?
That there's hope. That there is. And we just talk about the hope and the chaos, but
Yeah.
there is hope. I
Yeah.
found it. You can find it as well. You know,
It's that simple.
but we
Yeah.
have we one thing is not give up hope, and not giving up to stop looking.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's perfect. That's my thing is there is hope in the chaos. It's there. You have to keep looking for it. And through everything I've been through in my journey, which has been what I claim to be the hardest life I've lived. It's different than anybody else's hardest life, but I thought I'd never find hope, and sometimes I find it and I lose it and I have to find it again, but it's always there. You just have to keep finding it.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's one of the most amazing things when you find it.
Keep looking. Yeah,
Exactly.
we can't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Second you give up, it's over.
Yeah, yeah.
So as long as you have the desire to keep looking for it, it'll be there.
My grandfather used to always say, my dad's dad, I'll tell you, whenever I would lose something, he'd always say to me, he says, it's going to be in the last place you look. And I'm like, why? He said, well, when you find it, you'll stop looking. Right?
I like that. Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember that. You find it, you'll stop looking. So it'll be the last place you look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so well said. And it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I was like, wow, you know, but then there'll be something else to look for as well. So we can't give up, you know, because
exactly.
I think that this 2021 was a depressing year. Who knows what 2029 is going to bring, but I want to be here
Mhm.
and I want to find out,
Love that. And you
and
will.
I can get through it.
We all can.
You can get through it too, we
Yeah,
can.
we can with the power of connection with others and finding hope. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Brian, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, and for being willing to open up, share your story, not just for me, but for everyone listening to this. These conversations, they're not always easy, but they do matter. They matter so much. By sharing what this journey has been like for you, you're helping others feel seen, feel understood, and a little less alone, especially when it comes to the mental and emotional side of what you're walking through. I want you to know how much that means to me and to everybody else. And to anyone else listening today, if you're struggling mentally because of something that life has thrown your way, you're not alone in that. Your experience, it's valid. Your feelings, they matter. And what you're carrying deserves to be seen. So thank you for being here, for listening, for being part of this space. And just remember, there is always hope in the chaos.
Yeah, thank you. See you
Thanks,
soon.
Brian. We'll
All
see ya.
right. Bye.
If this podcast resonates with you, if it helps you feel a little more understood or a little less alone, please consider supporting it. I pour everything into these episodes, my time, my heart, and my truth. And your support truly keeps it going. You can make a one-time donation or become a monthly supporter on Ko-fi. Every dollar helps cover production costs, support future episodes, and allows me to continue creating and showing up with honesty and heart. Here's the link: coffee.com/I am hope in the chaos. That is ko-fi.com/I am hope in the chaos. You're not just supporting a podcast, you're supporting a lifeline for me and for others who need to hear these words. I am not a licensed therapist, medical provider, or mental health professional. The experiences, stories, and insights shared in this podcast are based solely on my own personal journey and lived experiences. This content is intended only for educational, inspirational, and support purposes. It is not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a licensed mental health professional or healthcare provider regarding your mental health or medical conditions. If you are in crisis or experiencing an emergency, please contact emergency services immediately by calling 911 or reach out to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling 988. You are not alone. You never were, and you never have to be. And remember, there is hope in the chaos.